Lords, I beg leave to ask a question standing in my name on the order paper.
My Lords, we are aware of the execution of Gholamreza Khosravi on the 1st of June this year. The right to life is a fundamental human right, and the UK opposes the use of the death penalty in all circumstances. The UK continues to call on the Iranian government to implement a moratorium on the death penalty and to guarantee the rights and freedoms of all Iranians.
The Lords, I thank the Noble Lord the Minister for his answer. I think it's quite disappointing insofar as what seems to dominate is the relationship that his government wants to have with Mr Rouhani. Will he acknowledge that since President Rouhani was elected, there have been over 550 executions? They're running now at the rate of 2 a day. The influence of Rouhani across the frontier in Iraq has led to killings running at the rate of about 1,000 a month, with 4,000 Iraqis being injured. All in all, since we intervened in Iraq many years ago, not so many years ago, have we not got a responsibility to Iraq and Iran to make amends by standing up and publicly and internationally exposing the injustice to the people we left behind?
My Lord, I think his last remark is a reference to the PMOI, and I recognise that this is a linked issue in that. The UN rapporteur's most recent report on human rights in Iran demonstrates that human rights in Iran continue to be awful, and that Iran is the second most frequent executor of prisoners in the world after China, and indeed in terms of the size of population, the largest. So we have no illusions on the quality of prison life, the use of torture, the absence of an adequate rule of law within Iran. Nevertheless, Iran is a complex political structure. It's not as simple a dictatorship as some of the states with which we have to deal. We do think that it is worthwhile pursuing an opening with the new president, and we are cautiously and carefully negotiating to see what is possible with that. The Noble Lord shakes his head, but I think we have learned from our experience in Iraq that blundering into a country with a large army and overthrowing the regime does not always lead to a much better outcome. Evolution is better than revolution.
My Lords, may I ask my noble friend if he would bring pressure on the Iranian regime to ensure
my noble friend recollect that when the president was elected, there was widespread expectation that he would introduce a more humane and moderate regime in Iran. In the light of the disappointments, to put it mildly, which have since been evidenced in that country, what recent discussions has Her Majesty's government had with the government of the United States of America, who share jointly with us some responsibility for what is going on?
My Lords, we have close and continuing discussions with the United States on Iran as on other Middle Eastern questions. I'm conscious that one of my colleagues was talking to his American opposite number yesterday. We deal with many states across the world whose records on human rights is imperfect, if not awful, and nevertheless we have to deal with them and try our best to improve their record.
My Lords, may I ask my noble friend if he will bring some pressure on the Iranian regime to ensure the UN Special Rapporteur, Mr Ahmed Shahid, is admitted and granted visa so that he can examine precisely what's going on in some of the penal establishment in Iran?
My Lords, we are doing so, and we recognise that that is an enormous problem. That issue was flagged in his most recent report.
My Lords. will Lord the Minister had a chance to look at the letter which was sent to him by his noble friend Lord Carlisle of Berriew to the Foreign Office last weekend, concerning not just the death of Mr Sabajani, but the numbers of members of the Iranian resistance who are currently scheduled for execution. And in light of what he's just said about the plight of the Baha'is, would you like to make some further comment about the execution of Baha'i believers in Iran?
We have condemned extremely strongly the persecution of the Baha'i. There are still, as he knows, a large number in prison. I have not seen Lord Carlisle's letter. I will look at it and I will write to the noble lord.
I beg to introduce a bill to amend the succession to the title of